Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming, and this is The Walking Dead Season 7 Negan Kill Scene. Did race decide death? You had to know this topic would be discussed, and most YouTubers and even print publications have avoided the topic altogether. However, after a recent video where I identified Michonne as a potential victim based on POV, a viewer commented, "Theories like these are racially motivated." I thought it was interesting that not one person insisted that my previous Glenn theory was racially motivated, which leads me to the question of, do you think race was considered when Negan picked his victim? If you look at the comic book, you can see in the second row, Negan initially avoided Glenn. He says, "I don't want to be labeled as a racist, so you're off limits." So then he moves forward to Heath and says, same thing, race card. He moves forward one more time to Michonne and says, "There's a lot of things I would like to do to you, but killing is not one of them. However, you're still on the list." And this is where the whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo game came into play. Negan needed a way to appear not to be a racist, so he needed a neutral game in order to pick the victim. Ultimately, no, that victim became Glenn. But on the topic of race, Denaya had an interview, this is probably a couple years back, but there were some complaints about racial politics in The Walking Dead, and she labeled it as hilarious. She also said, if we literally line the show up with other shows that are at this level of ratings or near it, I mean, come on, this show is actually the most diverse show, I think, right now. I don't quite know what people are talking about. I'm like, huh. And she lists several of her cast members. She mentions Glenn. She also mentions Sasha and also a couple others that she's had the chance to work with. So I picked Michonne based on point of view only. There were several things that led up to that. I mean, the back of the van was something that sold it to me. And also there was one scene in particular where you had the view of the back of the van and the barrel of the bat was pointed right straight at her. So this was the picture that made my selection very, very easy. However, with that being said, Rosita was definitely a possibility as well too, because she was in the back of the van and she was beside Michonne and had the same bat angle. So I avoided a couple other people based on point of view only, had nothing to do with race, but I did want to show you a couple of the other angles while I've got you here. Sasha was one of those. Sasha was a little bit further over, but as I mentioned before, that view of the back of the van was much further back as far as the depth. And then Glenn, who was very popular and was also chosen in the comics, his back was to the van based on that POV. You know, here's that shot one more time. Okay, now that we've thoroughly discussed POV, let's say it is Michonne that dies at the hands of Negan and they switch it up from the comic book script. There's rumors already out there that Denaya wanted to leave the show, that she's done movies, she's on Broadway, she's an accomplished writer. But the question I want to pose to each of you is, how should she leave the show? And is this the proper exit strategy? I mean, think about it. Is society ready, or the viewers ready for her to die at the hands of Negan with these type of images and smug looks and arrogance standing above her, dancing around? Ta-da, as she ultimately leaves the show. Several of you have left comments on other videos and said absolutely not, there's no way it would happen, and I tend to agree that there would be a backlash. And the question is, will the writers change that based on what they perceive to be negative viewer reaction? And this is a show that makes a lot of money and has a lot of lucrative advertisements that pay as well too. So if they were to kill Michonne at the hands of Negan, for whatever reason, POV, contract negotiations, career aspirations, would it make sense to kill Abraham right along beside her? Let's take a look at this from a different point of view. In the final lineup, there are 11 people. Out of those 11 people, 7 of them are Caucasian. 6 of those are male. So if they were to flip the script and get away from killing Glenn, which everyone's sort of used to, and not kill a Caucasian character, there's going to be questions. There's going to be a backlash, especially with them introducing new Caucasian characters. You have Jesus that's going to play a bigger role. You have Gregory and Hilltop introduced as well. Now, I know there's going to be Ezekiel, but race will be a topic of conversation, especially when you go back to the comics and everyone is sort of used to the fact that it's going to be Glenn. They've accepted the fact it's going to be Glenn. Now, to switch it up and to take a character that is not Glenn and is also not one of the predominantly white characters in the show, there will be questions raised whether they're fair or whether they're not fair. At this point in the discussion and theory, anything is fair game. And I know it's a very touchy topic for some people to discuss race in a video, but I've gotten so many comments and so many people have sort of said it or hid the comment behind several other things. And this is a video that's going to allow you just to be forthright and say exactly what you feel about the show, about the comics, about the script changes, about anything that may be out there, about why a character may live, why a character potentially could die. Thanks for all your participation. We do these videos to create some really good solid dialogue, and I'm looking forward to reading a lot of your comments. My name's Killshot. Peace.